the season premiere is a very cool thing. Everybody's really anxious to get back to work again, and everybody's really upbeat and psyched to get back to it. And Search and Rescue was a great script that Martin Garrow wrote, so everyone's high-fiving each other, ready to go.
Andy, what I was thinking is something like it comes across this access and she just fires, and then the grenade pop. But I don't know, that just came from my mind just now. That's just what I was thinking.
So,
use it, don't use it.
Shooting like that?
Whatever. Okay. Do I have to think of everything? Fine, yes, like this.
Do I say action now?
It's up to you, it's your choice, man. I'm not going to say what.
Action!
Season premieres are kind of tricky because they have to do a lot of things. They have to, obviously wrap up or, conclude the cliffhanger from the season before. B, they have to be giant and amazing because they typically are one of the most watched shows. This is the end of a pretty solid four-parter, that brought Michael back and has seen, Taylor being kidnapped. So there's definitely a lot to work with.
Well, Amanda Tapping has always been an incredibly difficult person. We've never gotten along right from the get-go. I mean, I've known her for years, and we've never been able to get even in the same room together. So this one was basically Amanda's last episode for Atlantis, and it was great because she took control and took the lead position of the actual search and rescue event, and it was nice to get her back out onto the field, which we were used to seeing her in SG1. She just commands such a presence on screen. It's great. She's such a pro.
Well, I don't know how we would have done this story without Amanda. It would have been very, very difficult, and there would have been a lot of weird explaining as to where Carter is.
This is it.
What are you saying? And I'm done? I'm done. My time here is done.
You've had a good run.
I've had a good run. 12 years, whatever.
Yeah.
I've just been authorized by MGM and its parent companies to offer you $100 to stay. What do you think?
It's not about
$100 cash money. $100 cash money.
She kind of exits very gracefully, and I think we owed, the character that, and I think we owed the fans that. She's put in 11 years to the franchise, and thankfully, we left it amicably enough that she was able to return for a couple episodes and to do kind of a handoff to Woolsey.
The IOA has decided that perhaps someone with a different skill set would be more suited to lead the Atlantis expedition now.
Excuse me?
I'm here to inform you that effective immediately, you are being removed from command.
Who's replacing me?
As a matter of fact, I am.
The debris pile set was, obviously we took our cue for starters off of the end of Last Man with the building implosion that we saw, the big vis effect at the end of the season finale. For the start off of the year, we needed to discover our guys trapped in debris pockets.
James, Robbins designed an amazing set that actually wasn't that big, but was very multi-purposed, a big two-layer set, which is something we rarely do. And then Andy, took James's design and with James figured out how to make it look as big as possible, getting those wide shots with foreground pieces that, didn't exist. And it really gives a scope to the show that is kind of a trick because, again, it's a pretty small space.
The challenge with it was actually just making it feel like you were in and amongst a debris pile. You needed to have access for all the cameras and equipment and lights and access for the actors. So it was tricky to do. We almost had to put the people into place and then build around them.
His route is basically going to be from here around to that and back again. So this can be full and he just has to make his way across those things that he can step on, push kind of out of the way. And the real piece that was up a little higher that he could physically grunt out of the way would be great.
And we used a lot of just moving items into the foreground that were on wheels. we had the set decorators build, again, sections of debris that they would basically have bolted onto framework that was on wheels, and we could slide those in front of the camera just to give a sense of a lot of foreground elements, because that was the big thing, is having foreground and midground and background elements everywhere, and just finding sort of peekaboo views through.
They're actually pretty claustrophobic. That pocket of debris is very small and uncomfortable for especially Joe to be under that beam for a whole day as, water and fire drip down around them.
We had to be really careful about like how we used dust, for instance, because Shepherd Joe was in a position where his body was oriented in such a way that he was facing up. And anytime any dust or debris was falling from above, we had to be really careful how we did that. So we just put it basically either right in front of the lens or just behind him, so it wouldn't actually fall on his face and risk getting dust in his eyes. But it was a tricky thing to do, for sure. 100% credit to the guys for sticking with it.
I was writing the teaser, and it was not, there weren't, it's our season premiere, you really want to, especially in the teaser, hook them and be like, have some oh my god moments. And we didn't really have any of that. I thought, bringing Ford back for that one thing would be a fun little thing for fans, but for new viewers, what was a way within those first 3 minutes that I could really say, listen, this is, we're spending some money here. This is going to be a really exciting show that has scope that maybe you didn't expect.
The concept of the shot was really cool, from getting us from one close-up to basically to another close-up at the other end, a galaxy away. It was a great idea on Martin's behalf. Basically starts on a close-up of McKay and pulls out, and then VisFX takes over. It's really just the only elements that I had to shoot were a close-up of David, just initiating a little bit of a zoom out, and then it just pulls back and back and back and back and flies through space and just goes on forever until we finally end up on Michael's ship, and we take over again in a practical sense with a camera move to reveal Connor Trenier, the Michael character.
Usually we would do something where you have the like, well, at least the bad guys aren't around, and you cut to the bad guys and they're like, oh well, now let's go get them. And we could have easily done that. And I wrote instead, why not do this whole basically shot through the galaxy, going from the building to Michael's ship, and really show this, the scope of doing a show in space like that. And I wrote it, and I thought, well, that's going to be the first thing to get cut, because that is super expensive in an already pretty expensive episode. But what Mark Savella has given us is, we've developed such a great relationship with him and his team that I really feel like there are no boundaries. He's never said no to an idea yet, and so that really has taken the reins off of him.
Hey, how you doing? We're here on the Wraith set, our favorite place to be, especially after being on hiatus for a while. We're going to get ourselves prepared to do the big scene where Taylor gives birth to her bouncing baby boy. The birthing sequence was a particularly interesting and challenging scene to do. Of course, the biggest component is how do you actually, present the birth of a real baby on a TV budget and schedule and so forth.
The thing I hate about TVs and movies for the most part is when when you deliver a baby, it's like that baby is 40 pounds. That's a huge baby. That is not a baby that just came out of a person. And but it's really hard to find a baby that you kind of look at Taylor and look at Kanan and be like, yeah, that makes sense that baby came out. Or B, that is small enough. And we actually lucked out huge that there was, this woman who gave birth, I think 15 days before we shot that scene. And you're not allowed to use a baby legally until they're 14 days old, because, at least let them have a fortnight before they have to get into the workforce, fair.
We really wanted to only use the baby for absolute bare minimum of shots. Typically what you do when you're dealing with an infant is you just keep them offset right until the last available moment, and then literally as you're ready to shoot and everyone is poised and ready to go, you bring the child in, and you want to keep it as quiet and calm an environment so the mother feels comfortable and the baby doesn't get agitated. It's not a nice thing to do to a kid, to put it in a film environment, but we tried to make it as safe and comfortable as we possibly could. And David and Rachel were amazing, and the mom and the baby were amazing. Of course, we had to put slime and stuff on it to give it that fresh afterbirth kind of feel. But things like cutting the cord, we did all that off camera. We talked about whether or not that was something that we should see or if we should just sort of forget about. But David sort of suggests pulling out a knife and suggests off camera to be cutting the cord, and I think it was important to do that. And I think all in all, it worked out pretty good.
I think it's a great episode. It's got all the things I love about Stargate. It's got some really funny moments. It's got some, really emotional character moments to it. The episode moves like nobody's business, I think. Andy did a supreme job of directing it, and I think the cast are really good in it.